And the problem is that they're not directly taught, and it can feel really uncomfortable to teach them. So I have a lot of the clients in my private practice are involved in the legal system. And the legal system in a courtroom is very much run in a formal register of speaking. And so you talk only when you're called upon. And I have clients that I've really had to coach them and say, when you go in there, they thought that if they sat down and raised their hand, that would be polite, and the judge would call on them. And that's not the way it goes at all. And sometimes they would just start talking and say, so when the prosecutor's saying horrible things about them, they would stand up and cuss them out, tell them what an idiot he is, how all of that's not true, or they're rolling their eyes and stomping their foot. And so I would coach them before we'd go in and say, you're not allowed to show any emotion. You can cry, but don't be angry. If you have something to say, you whisper to your attorney or you jot it on a notepad, and your attorney can speak, but you can't speak. The judge that I work with a lot said, Barb, you've got to make her shut up because I'm starting to not like her, and I need to make a decision about does she get her kids back. So what I said to my client is when you go in and you think you're going to talk, I want you to put your hand over your mouth so that you don't talk, because by doing what comes natural to you is hurting you in this system. And if you think you're going to talk, I want you to look back at me, and I'll reinforce, I'll encourage you not to talk. But that is, for some people, it would feel uncomfortable. How many of you would feel uncomfortable telling someone, if you're going to talk, put your hand over your mouth and don't speak? Okay, because in middle class, that would be feeling like, wow, that's really rude. But that's what I say when they're not directly taught. We think, oh, just by seeing, if I just role model, they'll get it by osmosis. But many times, no, we need to be directly taught. Okay. Oops, now I went way too far. Okay, so think of it as in terms of instruction or coaching. What might be common sense from one side of the fence is not at all common sense from the other side of the fence. So I want you to take a quiz just to get your head back in the whole academic mind frame. So take this quiz and see if you could survive in poverty. So just take a minute and look at these and see how many you could do. How are you doing? How many of you got them all right? You could do all of them. Okay? How many of you could do half of them? How many of you can do 1, 2, 3, or less? Now, if you had somebody with you telling you, these are where the best rummage sales are. Let me take you over here. If you had someone with you teaching you how to do each one of these things, how many of you think you could do it? Okay, and that's what we need, is when we're living in different cultures or across different socioeconomic lines, we need someone that can teach us how to do it. Okay, how about this one? See if you can survive in middle class. Okay, how many think you could do most all of those? Okay, how many maybe half? How many 1 or 2 or none? Okay, those of you that could do half, if you had someone helping you and explaining it to you and kind of coaching you along, do you think you'd be able to do most of them? Okay? I look at this, and this is still to me, even at this point in my life, I think, wow, yeah, I remember when I first was starting to do those kinds of things and how foreign it felt to me. The one I want to point out is the bullet on the top right. I talk to my children about going to college. There's a great book out, and I think it's out actually from the 80s. It's called Meaningful Differences. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It is a study of between poverty and middle-class families, and it really counts the number of words that children in poverty and children in middle class hear. And the difference is amazing. I mean, it's like there's 10,000 more words in a day that children in middle class hear than people in poverty hear. And so that, it contributes to not only the mindset, but the cognitive skills that are built or not built. And in homes of generational poverty, college is not usually mentioned ever as a reality, if ever. Growing up, my parents, their goal, my dad's goal for me, was to, at the most, be a legal secretary and get married to someone that had a solid working job, which meant a factory, construction, very much a blue-collar job, and that was it. There was no encouragement. There was no thought of college was really intimidating, and it seemed like college is for rich people. It's not for us. No one in our family goes to college. I love the last bullet on the right, too. I repair items. I didn't know when I grew up that there were such things as repair people. We just fixed it ourselves, or we knew someone that was handy, and we went trade something. When our TV broke, the new TV we got was put on top of the old TV. If a refrigerator broke, it just was moved out into the yard. So it was a whole different, when I looked at that, I was like, wow, people call repair people and pay them. That seemed really stupid to me. Like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just, try to do it yourself, or have somebody else that knows how to do it come over and maybe we can barter and trade some things. So when I looked at that, I thought that was it struck me as something that I never had given any thought to. Okay, now let's see how many of us could survive in wealth. You doing okay? Okay, how many can do all of those? So we need help. We need mentors. Okay, how many of you, if you had been raised in an environment where you had had opportunities to learn different languages, you'd had the opportunities, and you had people supporting and teaching you all the way along how to do these things, do you think you could do some or many of them? Raise your hand. Okay? So that's really the point, is that we need help to learn how to function successfully in different classes. And some people say that there's been some criticism that these kinds of presentations, that some of the references on the last page, that Ruby Payne, Donna Beagle are classist, that they're saying, that they're stereotyping. My take on it is we are a classist society. We are divided into class. We drew a line in the sand and said, poor, not poor.